Well, thank you again, everyone. You see those, and it's hard to imagine that was 12 months ago. Time flies by, unbelievable. And so much has changed. I believe that even within you, your businesses, your family, you could probably say 12 months ago, we were here and now we are here. For me personally, this has been a phenomenal year. Not only have I had the privilege and honor to be your president, but even personally, within my 40-year career as an architect, I brought that chapter to a close. I stepped away from my firm as an owner of 1,000 people with 28 offices. Some people call it retirement. I called it the next chapter. And at the end of the day, architects never really retire, so I went and opened another business. So imagine that. What I'd like to share with you today is this. It truly does feel as if it was yesterday we were celebrating in LA. We were post-pandemic, trying to get back together, trying to find the rhythm, and it felt like just a few weeks ago that President Bob was shaking my hand and bestowing and giving me the baton and saying, it's your turn to run with it and do good work. What I'll tell you is that we all celebrated. We had a great celebration there. My family was there, my granddaughter Emma Rose, and I hope one day, maybe Emma Rose will have an opportunity to sit in one of those chairs or even be on this stage and look back and say, yeah, that was my grandpa long, long time ago. So there's always the hope that there's a future architect in the family, right, that we always look forward to. Now, all of you know that I'm a Texan. This is my home state. And I've had many people over the years, as I've introduced myself, some that know me, maybe those that don't know me, they've said, well, Alfred, you're a Texan, so does that mean you ride a horse, you wear a hat, you wear boots? You can't see it, but I'm wearing boots. Left the hat at home. I don't ride a horse. I have a John Deere tractor. But I said, they asked, have you always been a cowboy? I said, well, I don't know, maybe. So I went back and did some checking, and yeah, I guess I've always been a cowboy to some degree, ready to go, ready for action there. And then many people have looked at me over the years and say, well, you always wear a bow tie. How long have you been doing that? Have you always worn a bow tie? So again, went back and looked, started pretty early with the bow tie as well. What can I say? So here we are today, a cowboy with a bow tie, and here I am before you again. What I really looked at in this year, my year as president, is I really said, I think this is a season of adjustment, a season of opportunity. I gave ourselves permission as an organization, as you as volunteers, to ask the hard questions. I gave ourselves permission to be self-critical, to look at ourselves in the mirror, to ask the questions of the why not. Which road will we go down? What avenue is before us, and what direction do we take? Now, you have to realize that by doing that, in some cases, I stirred the pot a little bit here. And I know that some people don't like change. Some of us like to sit in the same chair, the same pew when we go to church every Sunday, right? And we kind of look sideways when someone takes our spot. But I am one that says we need to encourage the opportunity to question what we're doing. And in doing that, many times we're uncomfortable when we talk about change, but that's all right because of the benefit that we can gain from that as we think forward. One of the things I've been so impressed this year is the tremendous staff and the resources and the team that NCARB has to put together the meetings and be agile and flexible. I mean, here's a perfect example of how we've all had to adjust to that post-pandemic world where we hold these meetings. We have some people on the stage that are presenting. We have somebody virtual that's on the panel presenting as well. We have remote attendees zooming in, and we have content on the screen. That's beyond my skill set, but I'm glad there's people here smart enough to do all of that and make us all look good. And thank all of you for your participation, whether it's in person or remotely. And we're all, I think, trying to find our rhythm. This is still a strange time as we think we're coming back, and then maybe we're half a step back. And this crazy pandemic around us as we all try to find the new norm, the new rhythm in the work that we do, how we do it, and then how we collaborate together. So I'm so proud of the work that we've done. Now, you might remember last year in LA, I said on top of everything that we do as an organization, all of the programs, all of the services, all of the forward thinking, the research, the work that we do, there's a couple of more things I want to layer on top of that. Some real key areas that are of particular interest and near and dear to me in my heart. The first one that I started with is I said, I want us to really focus and lean heavily into the licensing path of the future and that conversation. And I'll tell you, the way that I said about that we're going to start this conversation and lean focused into it is through much of our committee work. Now, don't get me wrong. These two areas I'm going to share with you are conversations that we've been having. There's conversations that you've been a part of in some different ways. But I said this is the year that we really want to take advantage and move forward in these areas. I've given this various example many times when I've shared this across the year. I've said here we are today in this amazing global society where borders are becoming more minor, where we're communicating across time zones, the way we communicate, the way we practice today. And I bet that if we had to design a licensing path today, it would probably look very different than what we actually do and require an emerging professional to go through. So now is the time we ought to tee up those conversations and look forward. And I know it probably makes people nervous, but I guarantee you, the board is not in a position to take any action, any resolution. Nothing's being done, but it's foundational groundwork that we have to ask the questions. We have to do the work that starts to move us in a forward-thinking position in this particular area. Now, to be a part of any of this conversation, it requires a lot of work, and it requires a lot of effort. And the way I went about it this year is I said, I'm going to lean on the volunteers and the committee structure to actually engage in this conversation about the licensing path of the future. And the way that I did it, and most of you have heard this before, is I said I'm going to take the 3 E's of our experience, our education, and our examination. And I'm going to deploy a single blue sky charge to each of those. And I'm going to make them think and be a little uncomfortable in this conversation. And so I proposed to the Education Committee, I said, here's the simple charge. I want you in a blue sky framework to come up with a path to licensure where education was the only requirement. Don't know what that looks like. Don't know if that'll work. I don't know if that's a NAB degree, non-NAB degree. I don't know what that is, but I want you to brainstorm and think about how would one navigate the path to licensure and the competencies and the rigor if the education path was the only path required for licensure. I did very similar to the Experience Committee. I said, I want you to think about a path where you went through some degree of experience. I don't know what that is, how much seat time, how many years, what the modules might be or the requirements. End of that experience, you became a licensed architect. And then to the Exam Committee. What if we took this high-stake exam and it was such that one could take it, maybe anyone could take it, maybe it didn't require any experience or education. But if you could pass the exam, you were good to go. Now, all those charges made a lot of people uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, because it shook the norm, where we have a foundation of we think the 3 E's are critical. And while I don't beg to differ with that, I simply call the question of why not think of another way to get there from here? Why not stretch a little bit in those conversations? And as you might have heard me report back, I had 2 comments that came back from the work. One was either this is one of the greatest, most challenging, insightful, exciting challenges and work we've ever had as a committee, or Alfred, this was really a stupid idea. I don't know where you came up with this idea to even take us down that direction. Somewhere in the middle in there, right, is probably an answer and maybe the route for further discussion. Now, in order to have that conversation, I'm a realist. I understand that you have to be able to frame up and understand the conversation on competency. It is a root, non-negotiable issue that has to be taken into account, whether it's the path we have today, a future of one of these. And that in order to do that, you have to work with that, define it, understand it. How do you measure it? How do you test for it even? And that is a must-have requirement in there somehow, some way that has to be part of the conversation. Now, the good news is that our board of directors throughout this year, we actually focused on competency. Every one of our board members, we had either homework or an assignment or work groups or work at an easel or as a team to take us through conversations where NCARB staff really challenged us in our thinking and how do we define the competency. This actual interesting slide was from our latest board meeting, where we were challenged with thinking of competency of what if you're a single practitioner, an army of one employee. What's the scope of practice for a single practitioner? Is it different? Is the competency level different than one of a firm of 20, 50, 100, 1,000? I don't know. So they threw this interesting what if as they said, we want you to go to the board and define the scope of a single practitioner. What's the scope of a project that someone should be able to do as a single practitioner? And all the board came up with different what ifs. We saw skyscrapers, we saw banks, we saw rec centers, we saw all sorts of interesting things in houses. And so here you see the three, my colleagues, our team of Bob and Kathy and Janet, working on a floor plan. And you see your poor president there trying to build a model out of pipe cleaners that represented what they were designing. So we were stretched this year. We had a great time, and it was really interesting work and creative work that we had to do that really made us think about this issue of competency. Now, you've heard me say, and you'll continue to hear me say, that the second issue that was near and dear to my heart was diversity, equity, and inclusion. As you heard in the video, that it's been a great honor and privilege, and I've been very humbled to be the first Hispanic Latino president in this organization. And I take that very seriously, and I look for more in the future to follow. And in this conversation, there were several promises that I made last June, standing on the stage with regard to the work that needed to take place. First, I said one of the immediate things we're going to do is we're going to hire some consultants to help us in this journey. We're going to hire a diversity consultant of Emily Holthouse, who's here, and you're going to get to hear from Emily. And we're going to hire a governance consultant of John Hockman, who's going to take us through that part of the conversation and the work about governance. Because you see, in my mind is while we talk about DEI, it's also an important factor that underpins a bigger and larger conversation about governance as well. And these go hand in hand, and there's times where they touch each other, and there's times where they're separate conversations. And we as a board of directors have spent every single board meeting devoting half a day of our 3-day board meetings to these very subjects. And so this has been heavy work. It's been hard work. It's been a heavy lift. It's been great work. I love in the fact that Emily refers to it that we're in the messy middle. I refer to it that we're having courageous conversations as well, and that it's important work that will inform us. I made a promise that in the first 90 days, we're going to hold a town hall listening session for all the NCARB community to have a voice and to be heard with this issues of DEI and governance. We held 10 town hall meetings that were virtual for an opportunity for individuals to call in, and I greatly appreciate all of you that took the time to participate. Such important information and factors that laid the groundwork of this is what we heard. And it was important for the board to hear where you think we are in this journey, what the impediments are, what the opportunities are, and how we could move this forward in the culture of this organization and the leadership opportunities as well when we take this on. Another important promise that I said is ripe for us to spend some time on is a vision statement. That we have a great strategic plan, but to this point, it had been silent in this area of DEI, and that we wanted to spend some time. And actually, we're going to share that with you here in just a few moments about the work that's been done and the conversation and kind of where we've landed on. I'm really excited about the vision statement that you're going to get to see today. We did some other things were the first ever that we had done. As you've heard, Jennifer Arbuckle, who started our Diversity Collaborative, Celestia Carson, who's chaired it this year, and the amazing work that they have done, and the amazing work that the volunteers and these conversations that are so important. We, for the first time as a board, met together with the Diversity Collaborative and the Board of Directors several times this year. That was critical conversations to have, to understand where the board was, to understand where the Diversity Collaborative is, and to understand the conversations there. You know, words are important when you have these conversations. And it was important for us to understand and hear each other and do work together and exercise and to understand a greater appreciation of where are we trying to move, where are we trying to go, and what the work ahead might look like for us. So I'm so excited and pleased that we were able to do that and take advantage of our time together. And I hope and pray that we will continue to do that as we move forward and meet with this critical group that we're thinking about. I'm so excited that here in the next couple of days, you'll consider a resolution about the Diversity Collab. It's one that takes it from being a volunteer ad hoc group that Jennifer came and said, this is an idea. We said, it's a great idea, let's do that, let's support it. And this moves through this resolution, the opportunity for the Diversity Collaborative to actually be a full standing committee of NCARB, just like many of the others that we have, with the charges, the work, the responsibility, the conversations to continue to do this. You see, I'm so excited about this because I've always said what we're doing today in these hard conversations, this is forever work. This is what I call, this is not just an Alfred year or even a Bayless year or those to follow, but this is work that has to be embedded into the culture of the organization and the opportunities that we can take to make this the dynamic, amazing organization which it really is. This will help us in that direction. So I'm excited to see that resolution when it comes forward for your consideration. Hopefully all of you took a moment and you saw the mid-year report that we produced. And this was the mid-year report about diversity, equity, and inclusion that was really the listening sessions and the outcome. This was an item that stated, here's what we heard. Here's the things that were said as the positive or the negatives or the opportunities or what we'd like for the council to consider. And in that document, there was this timeline. And you might remember this. This was the timeline that said, this is where we started. This is going to take us up to the annual business meeting in June. And then when we pass the baton to Bayless and the next leadership team and the board, here's Bayless's early vision of how we're going to navigate and continue this conversation forward and the work that needs to be done forward. So this was an excellent framing document that gave a sense of where we are and where we hope to be tomorrow. Now, I will tell you, hopefully all of you are well aware in the workshops that will occur tomorrow. And in those workshops, there's a really critically important opportunity. There is a workshop that will be conducted by Emily and John on our governance and our DEI. And I would hope and pray that each and every one of you would attend one of those offerings of that workshop. And here's why that's so important. The information that will come from that, your voice and opportunity to be heard, your input to that, as they give a summary, and they're going to come up right after me and kind of give you a little taste of where we've been in this journey, where we're going. But this is critical opportunity for your voice to be heard on this really important conversations about the future of governance in this organization. What it might be, what it could be, what do you want it to be? That's where I'm hoping you'll take the time and choose it as one of your workshops tomorrow as well. So in many ways, I felt what I did this year is I kind of laid a foundation. I laid an evolutionary foundation, some call it stirring the pot, of really where I said, this is the year that we're going to look to have these conversations about our being more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive as a culture of this organization. It was hard work. It was not easy work, but it was critical and it was important work. And I'm glad we've laid this in foundation as well. One of the things that people have asked me is one of the things that you're going to miss the most of not being president is I said, I'm going to miss telling the story. I'm going to miss the opportunity to be in front of other leadership groups and some of our other partners and partner organizations, and where I get so excited to tell them the work that we're doing, the vision that we have, the opportunities, the goals that I have in my year, and the amazing work that we're doing and all of the volunteers of the organization. And I get to tell that in so many venues. And I also, quite honestly, am using that to sometimes to challenge the other organizations. You know, you have to remember, we shared exam performance data this year during my term. And there was a lot of people that were nervous about it because of the obvious discrepancies that it indicated of the pass rate of members of underrepresented groups versus their white counterparts. We have that information, we're transparent, we're open, and we challenge the other organizations to share their test data and their results as well. So those are the things that I get so excited about and some of the things that I think I'll miss the most. Another area that's always been really important to me has been in the area of the international relations. Many, many years ago, I had the great honor and privilege of being involved in the Tri-National, moving it from a pilot program to full-time. I joke with people and tell them I speak 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Texan. If you hear my Spanish with Texan, it's really strange, but I speak 3 languages. And so when we talk about those international relations, we're excited. I was excited this year because we actually had a face-to-face meeting with our tri-national partners, with Canada and Mexico. And as you may have heard, we're trying to re-energize that agreement, that conversation, that journey. We're posing new questions, new challenges about diversity and equity inclusion in the other countries, about the path, about competency, about the streamlining and reducing of impediments so that we can make this a valuable and important document for us to use through our reciprocity across those borders as well. One of the other areas that I am so proud and so excited that Harry Faulkner and his group put forward, and this was just a few weeks ago, we held the first ever International Regulatory Roundtable, invited 10 other countries. First ever in history for us as a regulatory agency to have conversations with other regulatory agencies of 10 other countries. Invited all of those that we have the MRAs with, and invited others as far as Singapore and India, just an amazing group of individuals that joined and that were so excited to do this. And so my hat's off to NCARB team and to Harry, Patricia, Brian, all that were involved in this amazing work that's going to bear fruits in the future. And they've all said, let's keep doing this. The countries have said, we're learning best practices. We want to exchange information. We want to learn more about each other. So I think there's going to be great fruit that's going to become out of this as well. This has been a time I've said to listen, done a lot of listening, asked a lot of questions, really shook a lot of things and asked people to do some blue sky and to go there with us. And so this has been a time which I feel during my year that I've had to listen a lot, and we've all listened. But I will also tell you this. We've accomplished a tremendous amount during this year. You're going to hear more of the details of all the amazing things that this organization has done with the help of each of you when Mike gives a CEO report. But a few of the things that stand out in my mind, you can see them up here. Hopefully, every one of you took an opportunity to do the analysis of practice. If I were to ask, I would hope every hand in here goes up that, yes, I did this. An amazing opportunity, once in a decade. It's been that long that it's really going to inform us on the future and how we look at things within our program, our AXP, and our exam. All of you know that has been in the work for some time now is our transition of our test provider from Prometrics to PSI. That's going to provide an enhanced candidate experience. We've also had great work this year with some of our other colleagues as well. With NOMA, the baseline on belonging, that we continue to dig deep and extract data and rich information from that survey that we've done. And we have one more report that we're going to work on firm culture. And then we're looking at trying to do additional focus groups and dig deeper into trying to understand where the differences are, what the barriers are to keep us from closing the gaps. And then I'm also very proud, at the beginning of my year with our partners with CIDQ, of work that had actually taken place over several years, the presidents before me that started this initiative, to look at the CIDQ and NCARB and look at the competency and the exam objectives and that fine report that was put together with our partners of the Noble CIDQ and us as well, and that was distributed. Lineup, another one of those that you've heard of, our for-profit subsidiary continues to grow, continues to expand, continues to do good things that's going to bear great fruits in the future, I'm sure. So a lot of great things have taken place. You know, you've all heard the saying that you stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm a true believer of that. As I look at this in the NCARB office and all the other presidents that are there before us in the rafters there, the NCARB office, I look back and say, goodness, I have benefited so much from those presidents that are sitting on this front row. It's hard for me to describe what they've done, what they've taught me, the examples, their leadership, their wisdom that has gotten us to a place that we are today. So I truly believe I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I am grateful for everything that they have done and have brought us to the position and given me the opportunity to just kind of challenge us and take us one step further. I'd also need to give thanks, as we're here in my home state, to the Texas Board of Architectural Examiners. My humble beginning here in Austin 17 years ago. As I said, be careful what you wish for. You keep saying yes, you end up somehow here. And so thank you to all of you for all the hard work, for accommodating us, for hosting us here. Region 3, my friends and colleagues of that most interesting and fascinating region of Region 3, you know what I talk about, and love every one of you. And so it's been a great experience to watch and to see the amazing leaders that have come out of Region 3 when you just look at this board and you look in this front row here. Also, I have to thank the president that was before me, Bob Calvani. His great counsel, his wisdom, his leadership. Bob had an amazing year, having to take us through COVID and the challenges and the adjustments we had to make. And he did an amazing, amazing job of bringing us to where we are today and really put me in a wonderful position. And thank you so much, Bob, for everything that you've done. And then also Bayless Ward, my partner, my colleague, my first vice president, has been with me every step of the way, has been shadowing me. He's been many times my protector. He's a little bit bigger than me, and so I always throw him in front. So it's been great as we've been able to work together, as we've shadowed each other. Him, his wife Stacy, he's been a resource, a colleague when I can call, when I can talk to, when I can ask the questions and get his thought and input. We have a great president that's going to follow that I'm so excited about as well. And then last but not least, no one ever gets to this position without thanking their family. The resources, the family, some of the sacrifices that they make. My dear wife who's here somewhere in the back of the room, I can't see any of you because of the lights, so there's somewhere out there. But so many thanks to Phoebe and for her hospitality and being so open and sharing and loving and welcoming to everybody and their spouses. And it's been just wonderful to have her with me and encourage and support me every step of the way as well. So I leave you with this. I leave you with this thought that I saw, and I took it from Emily, and it was one that I said, aha, that's it. This is the key about leadership. I said, this is about inclusive leadership. And you can see what it says. It's not just about the things we do, it's about how we do things. And I said, that is it. That's the key, that's the spice. That's what intrigues me and hopefully intrigues all of you as we think of this forward. And I leave you with this last comment, that truly the best is yet to come. So thank you all for everything, your patience, this journey this year, your willingness to stretch and work with me. Thank you so much. Gracias. Thank you.